welcome to this week's edition of 5-Minute Worship Prep for February the 4th, 2018. I'm so glad that you have decided to join us today. Now, on today's edition, I want to talk a little bit about getting excited about worship. And this time of the year, when the Super Bowl is on, everybody talks about, has this analogy where we talk about what is our, excitement in or about, this excitement of, this big football game. And there's always somebody who says, well, why don't we stand and cheer and shout for Jesus just like we do for a football game? And I've never been a big fan, I guess, of those analogies. They're okay, but in some ways I feel like sometimes they cheapen our worship times and, comparing them to a ball game. But I do want to talk a little bit about maybe there are some reasons to stand and cheer and stand and shout for our God. In the Psalms, the psalmists, David and others, would talk about God in a very different way than we talk about God today. They would compare him to other gods. And we kind of take it for granted that people just believe that there's one God. But the psalmist would say things like, your gods are like this, but our God is like this, and he is greater and bigger and better than your gods. Or they would say, what God can compare to our God? Our God is great and the most high and mighty. And that's because they were surrounded by other groups and other people who worshiped other gods. And not that different really than us today. We are surrounded by many people who believe many different things. And if you think there are not idols in our culture and in our time today, there are other gods of this age that are just as effective at turning our attention away from the one true God as those idols would have been for the psalmists. And so I want to think about that and think about, in context of, sports and entertainment and our culture, and there's different ideologies and politics and celebrities and all those things, and even we can worship ourselves and material things and materialism and so many isms out there to be concerned with. But our God, as we know, is greater than all of those things, and he is deserving of our worship and our celebration and standing and shouting to him and about him. I want to read to you just a little bit from Psalm 77, starting in verse 13. It says, God, your way is holy. God, what God is great like you? What God, little g, is great like God, big G? And that term God there is the proper name of God. It might be Yahweh or Elohim or one of those other, Jehovah, Jireh kind of names for God. But what God is greater or like our God? And that's a rhetorical question. None. There are no gods like our God. It says, you are the God who works wonders. You revealed your strength among the peoples. With power, you redeemed your people. That's who our God is. And we need to be very specific. And when we talk about God, he is the God who, through Jesus Christ, has redeemed his people. Tomorrow morning at Sylvan Hills First Baptist, we're going to sing a song called Stand and Shout. And the chorus of the song goes like this: our God loves, our God saves, our God rescues from the grave, our God showers down his mercy for the glory of his name. Our God heals, our God frees, our God gives us everything to live and love in freedom, here and now. Stand and shout. So tomorrow morning, as we talk about who our God is, specifically the God who redeems, the God who saves, the God who sent Jesus to die on a cross for you and for me, would you join me in standing and shouting to that God, because he is worthy. See you there.